Welcome to this chapter, Stakeholder Management. Now, this is the last topic from the PMBOK guide from the PMP syllabus. The agenda for this session will be what is the project stakeholder management. Identify the stakeholder, this is the first process, and that's part of the initiation. Plan stakeholder management is part of the planning. Manage stakeholder management is part of this during execution. And control stakeholder engagement is part of during monitoring and controlling. So in this knowledge area, you don't have any from the closing process, but from other process you will find each and every process. One is identify, which is initiation, planning, execution, and monitoring and controlling. Now, project stakeholder management. So first of all, as we discussed earlier, who are the stakeholder? Stakeholder is someone and who could impact or impacted by the projects. And so those are basically called as stakeholders. Project stakeholder management includes the processor required to identify the people. That's where, we're going to first identify the people or group or organization that could be impacted or impact the project. And to analyze the stakeholder expectation, that's where we're going to understand what is their expectation, how they can impact on a project, and create appropriate management plan for engaging with them throughout the projects. So these are the things that we do as part of the stakeholder management. And one of the things that you should also remember, stakeholder satisfaction should be managed as a key project objective. It's a part of it's important thing. It's as part of the key project objective. You should satisfy the the stakeholders, whatever their expectations are there, and meet those expectations as per the requirements. Now, the first process is identify stakeholder, where you're going to identify the people's group or organization that could impact or impacted by the decision, activity, or outcome of the project. That's what we are talking about. Who are the stakeholders, right? It can be the team members, project team members, your project sponsor, vendor from where you're going to purchase the material, or government authority if they are involved. If any project you're doing where you need an approval from government authority, so they can be also the stakeholder, or the customer who is going to use your product. So those are become your stakeholder. Now the input will be a project charter. So procurement document. So procurement document will at least that who are your external vendors are there, and project charter will give you the high level about your the requirements where you can. And again, this is part of the initiating process group. So this is develop project charter and identify stakeholder. These are only the two processes we have initiating. This project is about to start it. Okay, so this is where enterprise environmental factors and organization process assets. So these are the things that you need to look into, that who can affect your projects. Now the tools and technique will be the stakeholder analysis. We're going to take one matrix and we're going to talk about how the stakeholder analysis works here. Expert judgment, take the subject matter expert and opinion, and the end you're going to have a stakeholder register. This will going to have a list of the stakeholders in your projects. And this is at the initiation. During initiating process, you know that, okay, these are the stakeholders can be there in my projects. Okay, and on high level, you can get, okay, who are the different vendors, who will be the different, the maybe project team, or as I said, the project sponsor, or who can be my customer. So from there you can, now this stakeholder register, when you have at the initiation phase, now you can start using during a planning or execution, right? That's where you need to plan it. Now the stakeholder analysis, this is, you need to identify who the stakeholder and do the analysis on that. Who are the stakeholder, and what is how they can impact your project, and which stakeholder you should monitor it, which stakeholder you should manage carefully, or which stakeholder you want to keep satisfied every time. So that's called a stakeholder analysis, where what we do is, let's take an example, this power versus interest grid. And before that, there's a stakeholder vary by the level of interest and influence. Now, You need to understand who are the stakeholder, what is their level of interest in the project. Okay, like a project sponsor have a high level of interest, and he can influence your project. So that's why you should always keep on satisfying it to them. Okay, level of power and impact. Now here there's one interest and influence. Okay, they have high interest, but there can be also that you need to think about who are the stakeholders who have a very high power and how much they can impact, but the interest can be less. Okay, maybe the executive level, they have a multiple projects are going on. They don't take much interest on a project, in your project, but their power is very high, and there's any decision can impact your project drastically. So those stakeholders you should allow, take care of carefully and manage their expectation. Legitimacy means who are the stakeholders? Actually, they are stakeholders. You need to also look into that. Is this they are actually stakeholders in your project? They are really impacted by my output, or they can impact my. So that's also you need to do the analysis. You need to take a call on that. Okay, not all the people and everybody is the stakeholders. Like you need to understand they can really impact my projects or not, or they are working my the team. So that's why you should do the stakeholder analysis. Let's take an example, power versus interest gap. Okay, so like suppose this is who are the stakeholders who have a high power, what is their high interest, how you're going to manage with them. If you see the X and Y axis, so interest is on a X axis and power is on a Y axis. Now I'm just putting these stakeholders A, B, C, D, and trying to see where they fit in. For example, if you see this, my stakeholder G and D, by looking this diagram, you can understand G and D look like low interest and low power. And they don't have much interest in my project, and they have less power. They are also stable. So I'm going to just monitor them. I don't have to do much things to them. For example, customer or who's going to use my product, maybe end user. You're building from a smartphone, or maybe end user. So in that case, their power will be less. So you just monitor them, keep on monitoring with them. And another maybe just like those stakeholders who have a very high interest in the project, but very less power. Then keep on informing them. For example, C and E. Keep on inform them, okay, what's going on in a project. And that's why, because they have a high interest, so you should keep on updating with them. Okay.
So what is T&E?
Sorry?
What did you say?
Keep inform them. For example, in this case, C&E, maybe any stakeholder where they take more interest, but they are not, they don't impact your projects. So it depends on what type of project. Maybe I can say your external vendor. They are very much interested in the project, so that they can put more resources in your project, and maybe they have less power. Okay, but they have a high interest in this. So keep on informing them. Hey, I need this. You keep on updating, send a mail or update them whenever it is required. So you keep on informing them. Okay. Now here the another is low interest. They have low interest, but they have a very high power. So it's like an executive or director level who they have a high power. A small decision can impact a project drastically. So you keep satisfied with them. Yes. Whatever they need it, what they request, raise it, go and fulfill that. Okay. Now most important part is B, H and F, where they have a very high interest as well as very high power. Where your project sponsor and the project manager or who will be actually working on a project. So now they have a very high interest, they have been working and they have a high power, so you manage closely. So those stakeholders you should manage very closely, keep on looking for if they raise any issues, you should meet their expectations. So that's why your action depends upon what is, what is their interest or what is their power. So that's why you have 30 to 40 stakeholders in your project. So you can draw this diagram and put it where those stakeholders fit. And now you can do the analysis and you can see that, okay, for these stakeholders, I don't have to spend much time, G and D. and for this stakeholder I should very careful, but this stakeholder I just keep on updating them. So you can create a strategy plan for that. That's what the stakeholder management plan is required, because your one approach you cannot apply to the every stakeholder one approach. It should be based on the different stakeholders. You can think about what can be your approach will be there. Okay, so that's where we based on first you done the identify stakeholder, and based on the stakeholder analysis you know that okay, these are stakeholders, how you are going to handle them, and then create a plan according to that. Plan stakeholder management. Okay, now here to develop the appropriate management strategy to effectively engage the stakeholder throughout the project life cycle. What is your strategy to engage them throughout the project life cycle? As I said, like those who have a very high interest and maybe I can say the very high power, you can keep on having a regular meeting with them, keep on updating them what things are going on in your project. You know, that's a regular update with them. Maybe keep satisfy them at the director level, or maybe on a monthly level you can keep on understanding their requirement and keep on updating about the project. So you should be creating your management strategy based on this identifying stakeholder, and but you can use it throughout the project. Now, as your management strategy based on your basis of analysis of need, what they are looking, what the stakeholder they are looking, what is their interest, what is their potential impact on a project success. So according to that, you should create your strategy. The input your project management plan that you have it, stakeholder register that you get it from the previous one, enterprise environment factors and organizational factors. So you know these things and have an expert judgment meeting analytical technique and understand it, create a stakeholder management plan and the project document updates. So you can create a strategy based on the stakeholders and what will be the approach and how you are going to handle with them. Now, as part of the analytical technique during the current engagement level for the stakeholder, so you can classify it into the different areas. Okay. Now your stakeholders. So your stakeholders, different stakeholders are there. So there are few stakeholders, they are like a support type. Few stakeholders, they are resistance. Few stakeholders, they are leading. They want to lead the project. Like any decision, anything, they take a decision on that. Few stakeholders, they are neutral. Now you need to understand it. Now you identify the stakeholders. Now you need to understand what is their level of engagements are there, where they fall. Okay, take those stakeholders and try to see, okay, A and B, where it falls. They are unaware or they are resistant or they are leading or they are supportive or neutral. Now, once you know that and put it, okay, so it's easy for you to understand it, okay, those stakeholders who are resistant, you can't ignore them. You have to convince or maybe create your plan or project your decision, explain your requirements clearly so that they can, they can become at least neutral or supportive. You can't have any stakeholder who are resistant throughout the project. Okay, you can't have it. You should have an approach where you try to convert them as a part of the neutral or supportive, because they will be resistant throughout the project and those stakeholders are very less interest but they have a very high power, then that will become problem for you. Okay, so you should make those stakeholders who falls in these category, at least make it neutral, supportive or leading, so that this will help you to for a successful execution of our projects. Why the unaware is important? Because you should keep on updating with the project, so they should know what things are going on a project. At last moment, suddenly they should not raise any problem. Okay, so now you know the stakeholders and you create your plan and you know that, okay, this is a stakeholder to whom I need to at least keep on updating so that they should become at least they start supporting a project. Now next one is manage stakeholder engagement, where you are going to manage the stakeholder engagement, where during execution phase, are you providing a right data to the right stakeholder at the right time? So you should monitor those things. And is the team who is responsible to share that information, they are giving that data or not? So it's basically to communicate and work with the stakeholder to meet their needs and expectations address their issues if they have it, build an appropriate stakeholder engagement in project activities throughout the project life cycle. So, that when you start having an engagement, that's where you'll, work on communicating with them, understand their needs and expectations. If they have an issue, note down it and see if any resolution that you can have any, have a resolution, and that's where you're going to build your engagement strategy. Now, engagement strategy where few stakeholders, where you may have a daily meeting with them, few stakeholders maybe you'll have just a presentation, few stakeholders you just drop a mail to them to update a project. So you're going to have a different strategy for a different people, and this is where the communication management come in the picture, because you can use a communication method for. That's why one of the tools technique is communication method. You can use the communication method for engaging the stakeholder. Now the input will be a stakeholder management plan, communication management plan. What are the plans? Are the communication management plans? Like what are the information they are looking at, and at what time they are looking at, in what frequency they're looking. So that information you will have in communication management plan, and with the stakeholder, then you can use that communication management plan for communicating and engaging the stakeholder. Have a change log, any organization process asset. Communication method, if you remember, you talk about it. What are the different communication methods are there? Interactive, push and pull communication. Okay, so you can use those techniques for engaging with them, like have an interactive session, or maybe just send a mail to them, or maybe you can update status. Everybody can come and see that. So you can use a different tools and technique based on the stakeholder. Interpersonal skills. As part of the interpersonal, you can build a trust, resolve the conflict, active listening, overcoming resistance to change. So that will be your interpersonal skills. You can use a management skill, which is a presentation skills, negotiation skills, writing skills, and public speaking. So the output will be an issue log, and during engagement, few stakeholder raise issues, note down those issues, and work with them. Change request, if there is any project management plan update, you will be updating project document or organizational process asset update. Now, another thing is control stakeholder engagement. This is part of the monitoring and controlling. So you need to monitor the overall project stakeholder relationships and adjust a strategy and plan for the engaging a stakeholder. Now, you have already created a plan and for how you are going to engage the stakeholders, and during execution phase you are working on that. But during monitoring, you realize that some engagement is not working, right? They are raising multiple issues and you are not able to handle it, you are not able to resolve, or so you can monitor the engagement level. Like, do you need a better? You can change a plan also. Do you need some other strategy to engage those stakeholders? So that's where control stakeholder management is. You monitor the your status and then take a plan, create a the plan according to that. The input will be a project management plan, issue log, work performance data where how the stakeholder performance are there, how they are during engagement, how they are raising any issues, and you are noting down on if they are raising multiple issues, how much percentage you have done it. So those will be your work performance data will be there, a project document. Tools and technique, you can use the information management system for tracking their issues log, and at least so that's one way. Or maybe you can use a different ways to communicate with them through the mail, conference, or maybe just put it on that dashboard and people can see, and stakeholder can update their issues there also. So that's all this comes under the information management system. Expert judgment, take the subject matter opinion, how the stakeholder engagements are there, should we need to do any changes in that, meetings. The output, since it's a control, you will have all four outputs: work performance information that will give the status on that, change request, project management plan updates, and project document or organization processes. Now, so this will be an output as part of the control stakeholder. Good. So do you have any question on this?